We just got the biggest trade of the offseason so far, and while one team added another young top talent to their already young roster, the other team gave up a star for a bottom 6 forward and 2 draft picks. Fans are up in arms, friends reunite, and management aren't to blame. Let's get into it. A little after 12 p.m. on Monday, we got news that Ducks star Trevor Zegras would be traded to the Philadelphia Flyers for Ryan Poehling, a 2nd-round pick in this year's draft, and a 4th-round pick in next year's draft. And first impressions are that the Flyers fleeced the Ducks. Although Zegras has had an underwhelming past 2 seasons dealing with multiple injuries, he's still a great player who's yet to have his breakout year. But at the age of 24, Zegras has only regressed, and the Ducks have had enough of his progression, or lack thereof. But was this Zegras' fault or a mistake on management? See, a Zegras trade has been a rumor floating around the hockey world for a while now. A trade to Montreal apparently almost happened a year ago but ultimately fell through. It's clear the relationship between Zegras and Ducks management hasn't exactly been good for a while. But why exactly? In today's video, I want to dive into what caused Zegras to be traded to the Flyers, and why this trade will be looked at as a massive mistake for the Ducks. In a video I posted back in December, I discussed the popular opinion that Trevor Zegras is washed, or he's overrated and doesn't deserve the attention he gets from the media. He's a flashy playmaker, but many people think he's not anything more than that. And while there is valid criticism for his play, I came to the conclusion that people are too hard on him, and when healthy, Zegras could be that 60 to 70 point guy, if not more. Looking back on the video, I still agree with basically everything I said. Zegras is a very talented player who often gets a bad rap from old heads who dislike today's more flashy game. Someone like John Tortorella, who despised the lacrosse-style goal.
It's cool, it's cool to watch and all that, but I'm not so sure it's good for the game.
Zegras got a lot of hate from people who didn't think he deserved the attention. There are players who put up way more points than Zegras yet get not even half the amount of attention, simply because their style of play isn't flashy enough to be posted to Instagram. This caused many to think he's overrated. And with injuries plaguing his career, Zegras wasn't doing all that much. And when he did play, he didn't look as confident. He looked sad to win games, and he just looked like he didn't want to be there. Although we didn't know it at the time, this might have been the truth. Zegras seemingly had problems with Ducks management. It all started in the offseason of 2023. Zegras was an RFA and had to negotiate a new contract. Him and his agents wanted more than what the Ducks were willing to give. The negotiations lasted into training camp, and usually that isn't a great sign for things to come. Disagreements happen all the time though, and eventually Zegras would sign a bridge deal for 3 years at an AAV of $5.75 million. But when he got to training camp, things only got worse for Zegras. Firstly, the Ducks hired a new coach over the summer, Greg Cronin, who wanted to improve Zegras' play away from the puck, saying, "We're just trying to get him to be more dynamic and adaptable in terms of what happens without the puck. It just boils down to us helping him become a physical threat in his non-possession ice time." This looks like a good thing for a coach to do, grow Zegras into a more versatile player who can play physical and defensive. Yet this would mean putting Zegras on the left wing, something Z might have been against, since a lot of his creativity comes from being a center. And the 2023-24 season was a disaster for Zegras and the Ducks. Before training camp ended, Zegras sustained a groin injury, leaving him to start the season injured, yet he still played. Having to deal with learning a new position and playing through an injury must have been challenging for Zegras. He only played 12 games before having to recover from his injury, and out of those 12, he had 3 points. A noticeable drop in points, and Zegras was even benched at one point.
Yeah, it was definitely a challenge. Nobody likes getting parked on the bench for a period, and then obviously overtime in that game. As a player, you want to be on the ice with your teammates, competing and battling in those games, and I'd say the message was received, and I totally get where he's coming from, and if that's going to be the standard, then I got to play better and make better decisions, and that's what I'm trying to do.
He returned in late December and only played 8 games before sustaining a broken ankle. During his recovery, the Ducks would trade Zegras' line mate and good friend Jamie Drysdale to the Philadelphia Flyers. At the end of the day, it's a business, but this move couldn't have came at a worse time for Zegras. To lose a player who he had a lot of chemistry with would only further push Zegras away from the organization. And this almost happened. With trade rumors to Montreal, it looked like Zegras would have a fresh start with a new team. But for whatever reason, this trade fell through, so Zegras would continue playing for the Ducks. The 2024-25 season wasn't much of an improvement for Zegras, although Cronin and GM Pat Verbeek did have compliments to give Zegras, specifically for his improvements for his two-way game. Despite this, Zegras would then tear his meniscus in early December and miss 25 games, finishing the year with 32 points in 57 games. It's clear Zegras wasn't adapting to their system, not being able to produce as he once was. The decision to turn Zegras into a winger comes from the Ducks already having potential first and second line centers in Leo Carlsson and Mason McTavish. Zegras simply didn't fit in, so management wanted to turn him into a more versatile player. Doing this would mean sacrificing Zegras' creativity. His biggest asset was ignored so he can play left wing. This was a clear misuse of his talent by management. And situations like this happen all the time in the NHL. Many young players have strengths that are ignored by management who aren't willing to focus on them. They force them into a role they simply don't work well in. Think of Sam Bennett in Calgary. Initially, he was played as a bottom six grinder, but once traded to the Florida Panthers, he finds his offensive game playing on the second line. He is now a Conn Smythe winner, and the Calgary Flames didn't even make the playoffs this year. As a Ducks fan, you might fear something similar might happen with Zegras in Philly. I doubt he'll win the Conn Smythe, but the idea is he'll thrive with a young team who will utilize his creativity. Luckily, John Tortorella was also fired. The Ducks trade away a potential star for a fourth liner and draft picks, while Philly picks up a player who could develop into a great piece for their future. This was a mistake on the Ducks' part, and soon we'll see just how big of a mistake it truly was.